Hello, hello, welcome. We are so happy to be here with you. I am Martina and I'm here with Christina. We're your hosts. Christina, you want to say hi?
Hello, everyone.
And we are here. Let me just briefly tell you about our context. Our context for this podcast is what would the world look like where we can be inspired by every person? You know, our immediate way of being is to compare and judge. And when we do that, there's always somebody losing, right? I've been talking quite a bit about that with my daughter recently. So depending on my point of view, I can either feel small, like worthless, nothing, or I can feel really arrogant, and I'm really, really good at that, and quite dismissive, right? So those are the two options. And there's no other options in that perspective. But here's our thought. Someone's everyday normal is someone else's extraordinary. Judgment comes from first impressions, and we invite you, the listener, to go beyond first impressions and see the magic everywhere. It's really the coolest thing. So there's inspiration at every corner and in everyone, if you're willing to look. So, and we're here today with Mariah. And Mariah, do you just want to tell us who you are, what you do?
Okay, well, I am Mariah Whisenand, and I do lots of things. I'm a singer, I'm a Feldenkrais practitioner, I'm a school bus driver for mainly special needs children, and all of those have sub-branches. So I sing at a church and a temple. I'm the ethics chair for the Feldenkrais Guild. So I drive shuttles for my coworkers for the bus. So I get to see lots of people every day. It's very exciting.
It's beautiful. And, you know, I was thinking this morning about, I think I met you about 15 or 17 years ago, right? When Christina was doing a Feldenkrais training, and she told me I should try that. And I found you, and you know, like all the experiences we've shared over time, you know, you did Feldenkrais with all of us, with my whole family, and I got to coach you, which was such a privilege. But one of the things that strikes me is about you is really like, you know, the guardian angel. Like when you talk about your kids, your special need kids on the bus, and I'm just so blown away by your willingness to love them and hold them in a way that they don't have to act up anymore. And it's just the most exciting thing, really. It's so moving. And the other thing is like your willingness to keep, it's almost like claiming a little piece more of yourself and more of yourself, and it never ends, right? It never
exactly
does.
Yeah. So, and that's something I do. I love all my children, the difficult ones, the bratty ones, the ones who really need help. I love them, and they're not mine, but for however many minutes a day they are. And it's such a rewarding thing for me. I don't have children of my own, and yet I'm surrounded by children half the day, and I love it. And it is always, you know, trying something new, trying to find out more information. It's just, that's to me what living's about. You've got to love people, try and meet them where they are. It's actually, Christina will agree with me, Feldenkrais is very much about meeting people where they are. It's not about trying to change them or make them into something they're not. It's about finding out who they are, where they are, and going from there. And I kind of think that I apply that to most aspects of my life. I'm a very curious person. And so it's like, oh, why are you doing that? Is usually my response, instead of, oh my gosh, would you stop? Which I know is not how most people react. but I find it, I'm lucky, I think. Yes, my life is split into an awful lot of little pieces, but all of those things I really enjoy. And if I had picked just one 9 to 5 sort of job, other parts of my life would have had to not be fulfilled. So it's a crazy schedule. And I'm reminded of that this week, because I do not like getting up at 4 a.m. However, it makes it all work. And I'll do it because it makes it all work. And, I do something for 2 or 3 hours and then I get to do something else. So I can't get bored.
which is really, really cool, right? It's just, and at the same time, like you were talking, and it's your choice. It's your choice to
very much my choice.
Everyone the way they are. It's your choice to and I think that's, for me, it's really fascinating, right? Because we can choose to look at things one way or another. So let me just have you answered this question. If you really knew me, you would know.
I have no idea. Well, I love children. I'm kind of an introvert, though I don't act like one. I would say my happiest place is curled up listening to classical music, reading a really, really, really good book, so that if I could, I could stay up half the night to finish it. I don't usually have the energy to do that, and I usually do have to get up early, so I have to put my book away. That I'm fun and playful. I'm a tall woman, so I might be a bit forbidding to look at, but I can be very silly. I try not to show it to children. Know that part of me. Most adults don't know that part of me, I would say. So, but I can be very silly. So my specialty, I would say, is interesting sound effects. So occasionally I have some students who would classify as adults in my Feldenkrais practitioner, but have traumatic brain injuries. So there is a childlike aspect, and I find myself making sound effects for them too. And they find it highly amusing, but a little insulting. So I try not to, but it's something I enjoy.
Really cool. I can see there's definitely a common thread among us with this curiosity and playfulness, which I think is a perfect segue to our question of, would you like to share a funny or silly or embarrassing story with us today?
I have lots of those. So I told Martina the other day of I will tell you my surgery story, because I think this is a very cool story. I had to have a lumpectomy, and everybody was really, really scared. My doctor, the surgeon, and they had decided I had to have surgery, not just biopsies, but the whole thing out. And I was nervous, and I'm asthmatic as well. I didn't add that. And so I went to my doctor, who sent me to a specialist. I went to the specialist, and I guess I saw my doctor on a Thursday, and I saw my specialist on a Monday, who told me they did surgery on Thursday. And I was getting out my calendar to book, and she said, no, you're on the schedule for Thursday. And I'm thinking, this doesn't sound good. And because I'm an asthmatic, they had to talk to my lung doctors about how to anesthetize me. And everybody agreed that they should not put me really under, intubate me. They didn't think that was going to be a successful thing. And so they went for Twilight, which is what you get when you have a colonoscopy, which is actually my favorite drug. It's a wonderful drug. Anyways, I only have it once every 5 years, except in extraordinary circumstances. Anyways, and it was this time of year. So it was right before the high holidays, and I sing at a temple, and it's a solo quartet and a cantor. So it really matters that my voice is working. So my friend who drove me to the procedure is a singer. So she was talking to the doctors about, you have to be careful of her throat, be very, very careful. And we're walking along I guess, I think I was on a gurney, but sitting up as I was rolled into the surgical suite by both the anesthesiologist and her assistant. And they asked me what my favorite oratorio was. And I said, The Messiah by Handel. And they said, but that's not Jewish. And I said, well, if you want Jewish, because of course they thought I was Jewish because I'm singing in a synagogue. I'm not. I said Judas Maccabeus. And they were like, oh, okay. So they're doing all the things they do. And the last thing I remember is being asked if I know a certain oratorio and what's my favorite part of it, and singing like the first 5 notes. And that's all I remember. And when I came to, and I have a near and a farsighted eye. So when I'm tired, groggy, and without my glasses, I am blind as a bat. I'm squinting, I can't see anything. And all these nice people, I'm getting a hot blanket, then I'm getting another hot blanket, and I get hot tea, and then someone takes it away and puts an ice cube in it because it was too hot, and then someone brings me a cold drink. And I'm thinking, wow. And of course, I've had Twilight, so I'm feeling very happy. And then I'm beginning to focus, and there are 3 cubicles across with patients in them, and they each have one nurse that goes back and forth. But all those nurses come to see me. It turns out that the way they made sure my airways stayed open is I sang the entire surgery. And my doctor was quite upset that they had not had the sound recording on for teaching purposes that day. So they did not get to record my concert. And you know how glad I am that they did not record it. Because I have no inhibitions when you give me Twilight. And I was probably singing things I really have no business singing. But the upshot was, of course, no bad anything, beautiful stitches you can't even see anymore, and a very, very nice experience. I mean, it was a great, great experience. I wouldn't recommend getting the diagnosis, but then things like that happened to me, just totally weird. It turned out that both the anesthesiologist and her assistant had sung all the way through college and graduate school and were in volunteer choral groups. And so they actually knew the repertoire. So they were singing along with me. And when I would stop singing, someone would start something else and I'd join in. So it could have, now I would say it would have been fun to have a tape just to see how it went. But at the time it was like, oh my God. So yes.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for
like
sharing that. It's, it's really like, it's beautiful, right? It's inspiring and it's beautiful and it makes light of life. So let's go to a little heavier question. Okay, about that. So what's your biggest life lesson? So what made you who you are today? Or what took most courage, right?
In a weird way, I think the most courage was probably getting divorced. Getting marriage took courage, but it got me out of a bad situation. But getting divorced and thinking, oh my gosh, I have to be on my own. Oh, I can't do this. I can't do this. I think was the best thing I've ever done. And learning that I am strong and that I can do things for myself. And it's actually nice to be alone. And as I said before, I am somewhat of an introvert. So to go out in the world and be social, I can come home, and if I want to have yogurt for dinner, no one's telling me they need to cook. It's wonderful. But I didn't want to do it. For me, it had so many negative connotations, both about who I was and a failure. But 20 years down the road, I do think it was a good thing. And I think it opened me to the possibility of learning more about who I am and what created me. Because you and I have done spiritual divorce and various other coaching programs. And I had a pretty rough childhood that sort of made me timid and scared and wanting shelter. And at the time when I met my ex-husband, he provided that, but it didn't last. And so to lose that anchor and have to go out in the world and discover, hey, it's not so terrible, I do think was a good thing. And now, of course, I wish I'd done it sooner, but that's hindsight. And it was meant there for a reason. So I actually firmly believe that things do happen to us for a reason. And I run into a lot of coincidences and silly things like my story. And I do think it's the universe saying, hello, pay attention. So I woke up. So.
Really cool.
But
yeah, go on.
I was going to say, because it was the transition from a bad situation that sort of gave me the strength to grow, to get out of another bad situation, because neither was good. But it had its purposes at the time. So
it's those baby steps, right? You get a little more momentum and a little more momentum, and they keep giving you that.
Yeah, and it doesn't kill you. So, oh, well, maybe I could do some more. But you know, that wall of fear that I think many people have, that you feel you really can't, because what will happen? Because there's just this feeling that the whole world is going to end and collapse. That happens to people all the time. But somehow when it's you, it's like, oh, and you're going to break into 1,000 pieces, and it's horrifying. And so you put things off, and you don't, because it's going to be so terrible and might be bad, but you can survive. And I think that's a good lesson to learn, that, you know, it might be bad, but hey, you'll find the way. You have friends, people will support you. You can do this. So, but it took a bit to push me over there. So
you're not the only one, Maura.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. This happens to lots of people, and it's just our culture, you know, we give girls that just a happy ever after. No, now begins the rest of your life, and it has its ups, it has its downs, and you need to learn to deal with them. It's so I'm going to tell you another silly story. When I was a little girl, somebody somewhere, and I must have confused some story, they talked about something along the lines, if you were patient enough and quiet enough that you could put salt in a bird's tail, that bird was yours. And in my strange little mind, I thought, aha, I can have a pet bird. So I spent an entire afternoon with breadcrumbs in a salt cellar, sitting on our front sidewalk as a little girl, and birds would alight, and I would very, very gently. And I can't tell you how many birds I liberally sprinkled with salt, and they flew away. And I was so upset. My mother thinks it's hilarious. She remembers it quite vividly. But in my brain, they were supposed to, like Lot's wife turning into a pillar of salt. My birds were supposed to just be frozen forever, and they were mine. And of course, they flew away. But patience and courage and all those things, we have them, and we're not taught that they're valuable. So yeah,
it's a really big point right there. Yeah. So Mariah, what would you say your superpower is in life?
I think I'm like a cork, and I keep bobbing along. That while things do upset me, bother me, get me really crazy, I usually find a way to, my doorbell's ringing, and I'm not expecting anybody, to bob like a cork and come out of it, and find a way to make the best of it. I would, even bad situations, there's something there that you can use as a lesson and go forward. And I think I've gotten pretty good at that. So yeah, I think that would be my answer.
Like I love that, like the cork, because it's like it doesn't pull you under, right? You just go with
the flow, and you may bob a bit and get wet, but you're not going to drown. And I think enough stuff has happened to me in my life that, I joke, it didn't kill me, so therefore I'm going to get stronger. And it's funny, but it's true. And I would say with age, I am getting older than I was last month. Things that I used to think were the end of the world and the most horrible, awful thing, and I'll never survive, they're not as important. And I was having a conversation with my assistant on the bus this morning, and there's this really strange man at work. And he's like a border collie. You need to give him something to do. And he has issues with everybody. And yet he finds me a marvelous guy. He's always coming to tell me something. And I'm like, okay. And it's just literally going right over my head, because I'm not going to get into politics because we have very different views. I'm not going to talk about who's doing what they should and shouldn't do, but you can tell me. And I get along with him. And most people can't stand him. And I'm thinking, well, I don't have to live with it, because that's sort of I had a client once who, when I was first divorced and was all worried, and she'd been divorced years before, and she used to say, dear, when you start feeling really sad and lonely, just imagine you don't have to hear his key in the lock anymore. And at the time it was like, oh, because yes, I'm alone, but I've chosen, and I can take the good parts and his crazy politics and his not getting along with anyone and his border collie behavior. If you just gave him a good task, he'd be amazing. And I see that. And I think most people only see the abrasiveness because he's underutilized, and it's a long backstory and it's sad and blah, 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 because who doesn't have a sad story? But at the same time, how cool that he's got all this energy and it doesn't bug me. And there's just this ability, instead of all the judgy, what you said at the very beginning, Martina, is find the little pieces that are the diamonds. And because diamonds are way underground and they're covered by rocks and dirt and they're a mess to mine. But there's some facets in there that are, and everybody has facets. And if we were all the same, how boring would the world be? Oh my gosh. And it's those little facets, and where can we fit? And I also think of Legos or diamond shapes, but where can the facets connect? And where are they totally dissimilar? But if you can find those little points, life gets really interesting. And as I say, I don't have to have this guy in my house. I don't have to have meals with him. He's just a work somebody that we do one job together, shuttling. So he always comes to talk to me. Okay. If he didn't, I'd be reading my book. I could care less. And I think that's why he comes to talk to me, because he's perfectly nice with me, never says anything offensive to me. And I don't care. I don't have like, oh, or any, it's just like, oh, okay. And we have a conversation, and it's all that judging and aren't in the picture. And I think partly age and partly just being curious about people. It's like, okay, so you're all this, but where are your good qualities? Because everybody has one. Even the worst, horriblest person in the world, somebody found something good in them. And so it's like a game. Okay, so you're going to be a total curmudgeon. Okay, so somewhere in there must be something. And so I look for it. So, and it's easier really with age, I think, because I don't care in the same way. I mean, I'm who I am, and you don't have to like me. I don't have to adjust to someone else's opinion of who I should be. All the shoulda, wouldas, I think, begin to get out of the picture. And I think that's a blessing. And it lets me just be and be curious. And I don't have to say, oh, I should have, or, oh, I must have. And I don't have to do that. Sometimes I do, but you know, in general, in the world, I can just be. So.
And you know, I'm going to contradict you here. Sorry.
Oh, you know me really well, so you can.
I don't believe that that's through the board, that you don't care as much. You know,
I do care.
That's who you are. That's who you've become, which is beautiful and powerful, right?
Yeah.
But I know plenty of people, no matter what age, that still are all about the image and does it look good and is it perfect and like the portrayal outside. So I just wanted to say that because I think it's really important to mention that. So let me ask you the next thing.
Okay.
Who or what do you want to be when you grow up? Like if you could be anything or anyone, what would you be and why? If you could do anything, if there were no restrictions or limitations, what would that be?
I would be a crazy cat lady who ran a bed and breakfast. I've actually gotten pretty serious about dreams of bed and breakfasting. With my ex, we actually did look at property a couple times, but there was always a reason it didn't work. And in hindsight, it wouldn't have then. But I love to cook. I love to make breakfasts, you know, with interesting treats. And then they go away. And that's my idea of the perfect guest. You know, when I have had guests staying, I'm very happy to do, you know, breakfast, supper, but then you're sort of on your own. And here's a map and here's my car and go play. And I also love cats. I couldn't, you know, I'd have to keep everybody separate because people are allergic to cats, and I wouldn't have that many cats, but I'd have cats.
You just cater to people who like cats, Mariah.
That would work, you know, like a cat cafe, but you can stay overnight. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that would work really well. I would like that. And just, you know, the kind of person who could have open houses and, you know, we want to drop by for dinner. Oh, there's always something. And yeah, which in my current life, you're probably getting yogurt for dinner or some cheesy crackers. But in my ideal world, you know, it's open house and you can come and there's always something. Yeah. I would like that.
That's really beautiful.
Maybe someday.
So Mariah, you're always taking care of people, and even in your vision of your future with a bed and breakfast, taking care of people, what fills you up? What do you do to take care of yourself and give back to you?
I will say singing is a lot of that. I have always sung. According to my grandmother, I could carry a tune before I could talk. And it's so fulfilling. And being a soloist, I love compliments. And I love knowing I've done a good job. That I think is in my life. I mean, there are things that I might like that aren't in my life. But in my current life, those are the places that really I do find great fulfillment. Also, you know, some of the kids on my bus who are shy or whatever, when they just suddenly run at you and grab you and give you a hug, I love that. We're not supposed to touch children. But my policy is very strongly, if a kid comes and grabs you, you give them a hug. And it does happen, not every day, but once in a while. Yeah, I would say those are the things, which is fun. Yeah.
And, you know, like, and from knowing you, I also would add like interaction with people, right?
Yes, that's true.
Absolutely.
That is true.
Yeah, you know, as challenging as it might be sometimes, but just really like the victory of having reacted differently this time, or, you know, like that, like from what I know about you, definitely, I believe that that's something that fills you up.
It does. Well, and I like having connections in the world. I know a lot of other single people who are very lonely and bitter, actually. I am a bit of a Pollyanna, because I do usually find the silver lining, but I tend to be happy. I have more people to talk to in a day than most people do. And I didn't work this summer. And this is our 3rd day back. And the number of people who've come to tell me that they miss me, they're so glad to see me. You know, I'm the only person they really can talk to. And it just all sorts of little things that people are, and it makes me feel so good. And I'm thinking, but most people are like this. And I realize they're not, but I get tired and it's nice to come home and just be quiet. But I talk to so many people in a day and everybody has something to offer. And, you know, there are people that aren't my favorites. We judge and we categorize, but usually I can have a decent conversation with them. And I take that as a victory. You know, when someone's like, to get an actual sentence out of them. Oh, look what I did. And if they see this, they'll be very upset with me. But I see it as a challenge. And as I say, I'm a pretty happy person. It's not perfect, but for me, it works really well. So yes, more money would be nice. More sleep would be nice. But, you know, I've got what I need. And I was okay in lockdown because I did jigsaw puzzles the afternoons and I read in the mornings. And Martina knows how many jigsaw puzzles I do in a week because her daughter gets to benefit from it. Because I don't keep puzzles. I do them and I give them away. And for me, it was great. But I said early, I'm the chair of the ethics committee for the Feldenkrais Guild. We still were meeting. So I've got my beautiful panel of faces that I'm talking to every so often. We did Zoom choir, so I'm singing. So I had the things that I need just to make me happy in my life. And I had enough contact with the outside world that it made me not go stir crazy the way so many people seem to have gone. And again, I'm lucky. I don't think of myself as lucky, but I kind of am. Because the circumstances, I could make them work for me.
Yeah, and again, that's a choice, right? That's a choice
Yes,
you make.
yes.
It's really, really exciting that you choose that, right? It really is. Because you know, like as you said, right, there's plenty of people who look at like, oh my goodness, poor me. But you choose, right? It's part of it is how you came into the world, right? Like with that predisposition. And at the same time, you know, like you had quite a bit of challenges. So it is a choice. It is a choice. So
because so early on, I made the choice to not, or at least try not to repeat where I'd come from. So that was the first sort of, but more and more and more, I like to interact. I enjoy, I am happier one-on-one with people than in a crowd. I find crowds difficult. But a one-on-one conversation, I love it. And so, you know, various people as I shuttle, there are people who will wait just for my shuttle so they can talk to me, which I think is kind of cute, and that's fine. But I get to have some really nice little conversations every single day. And that's a beautiful thing. And it's fulfilling, it's inspiring. You have a place in the world. You're not just an anonymous, nobody gives a darn who you are person. But it is because bad things happen to every single person. And it's what you make out of those bad things that informs the rest of your life. So you can feel like you've got the weight of the world on your shoulders and everything's horrible and you only see the bad, but what a horrible way to live your life. Because bad happens to everybody across the board. And it's, I think, how you decide to go forward that sort of transforms your life. It can be It's you get it, it's all an illusion in a way, and you're the person who gets to decide what your sense of reality is.
Mhm.
I mean, someone jumping into my life might go, oh my God, how does she live like this? But it doesn't matter because it's how I like to live.
I was going to say, it's your life. It's not anybody else's.
Exactly.
Right?
And I think
it's and you're unique in your own way, and you live life in
yes,
your way, and nobody has really anything, I don't know, to say about your life, because
exactly,
it's your life, right? It's
exactly.
and if it, as long as it works for you, it's good. Now, I just want to make a brief point about, yes, it is a choice, and sometimes it's not easy, right?
Oh
Because
no, it's not easy. Yeah.
sometimes we go places and it's really dark and ugly, and it takes something to get ourselves out of it. So and why I want to say that is because, like, I know I have a tendency to then make myself wrong if I don't get my
Oh,
life together and move forward. So
yes.
it is a choice, and it's not always an easy choice.
It
right?
is not an easy
It's-
choice. And I think it's sometimes a hard choice. And I think it can be easier to not try and pull yourself out. But the alternative, because I do work with some curmudgeonly people, and because I am looking for their diamond facets, I'm looking at what I think of as dross, the parts I don't really want to connect with. And they have made that choice. And so I need to use them as a lesson that, but do I want to be like that? I don't think I do. So what do I have to do to not go down that rabbit hole and find a different direction? And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but it's I wouldn't call it compare and contrast, but it kind of is. It's like you have that option too. You have every option available and you get to choose. And sometimes circumstances are sort of pushing us in one direction, but you do occasionally get to come up for air and say, but you know what? Maybe we're going this direction, but I'm going to do it this way. Mm-hmm. And it's hard. I'm not saying it isn't hard, but you can do it and it can be a choice.
Yeah.
But no, there are times when it's like, oh, but I do have that Pollyanna. So I usually do find the diamond facet parts. So,
yeah. So let me ask you this, like, if you had a magic wand and you could pick for any quality, what would it be and why?
Kindness. Because so I, for years, and now I lease my car so I don't, I buy them when they wear out. The bumper sticker, practice random acts of kindness and senseless acts of beauty. And I think that's such a beautiful idea. And I try and practice it every day. So it can be as simple as I'm going one way in traffic in my bus and someone's trying to turn and I will stop and let them go. And I don't think anybody else in the universe pays any attention, but I rack that up as a kindness. But it can also, it's let someone go first at the grocery store because they have two things and I have a basket full. Hold doors for people, reach the top shelves, but you ask first because I have done that for people and they get really mad at me when I just, at 6 feet tall, put whatever they wouldn't. Oh, but I wanted to pick my own. Okay. But it would just be the world would be such a nice place if people could be nice to each other, to be nice to themselves, be nice to their spouses, their children, their coworkers. I think the world with just a little more kindness and being able to sit, and I think people often are waiting to put in their answer in a conversation without listening to what the other person says. And to me, that's a kindness to wait and let them say what they say, because it might be going in a different direction than you want it to. And that could be cool. And so, yeah, I would be sprinkling kindness everywhere. I would be so annoying.
Be killing them with kindness.
Kill people with. I work with two very difficult musicians at the moment, one for each denomination. And I get more polite and more polite the more annoying they get, and they just don't know what to do with it. And it's really snarky too, but blowing up isn't going to solve anything. And now on my downtime, as Martina can tell you, I am about them, but to their faces, I'm very polite. I'm trying to treat them with the dignity that their post supposedly deserves. They may really frustrate me, but hopefully they're not going to figure that out. So,
yeah. So Mariah, what do you want people to remember about you?
that I'm nice, except nice is a horrible word. But that I have been a kind person, that I might have been the listener you needed at that moment, that, you know, I have contributed in very small ways. You know, I can't give $1 million to my college or my church or something, but that when it came to it and you needed someone to talk to, I was there and I would listen. Or did a kind deed, or, you know, that I want my mark, I hope, would be to have, like some of my special kids, to have taught them, you know, how to be kind to others, how to listen to others. Because I do think, I mean, it's something we don't practice so much anymore, but I do think it makes a difference in the world. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
So you have a business, Mariah. Would you like to share with our listeners about your business?
Well, I'm a Feldenkrais practitioner, and Christina knows about Feldenkrais. So, I would say it's a kinesthetic learning experience, but that actually is gobbledygook, isn't it? So it's hands-on, and I help all sorts of people with various difficulties. People who have back problems, who have neck problems, gait, walking problems, breathing problems, name it, small children. I do work occasionally with small children, and that's a lot of fun, helping them catch up to their milestones. So yeah, I love being a Feldenkrais practitioner. This is why I have to do all three, because
Yay.
you know, I really, really, really love my work in whichever, I think of it as wearing a hat, you know, whichever I'm doing at this moment, it's so amazing. And Feldenkrais can just, I've had an awful lot of older female clients, and for many of them, it's meant the difference between, you know, not being able to live independently or going into a home. You know, working with being able to walk up and down steps, balance, turning, you know, all the lessons about turning your neck so you can drive safely. Yeah, it's
Beautiful.
great stuff.
So do you want to tell our listeners how they can find you or contact you?
So it's by phone or email. I don't have a website, and it's my first and middle initial, lmwhisenand, at optonline.net, and Whisenand is WHISENAND, or 516-702-7615, which is my cell phone.
Fantastic.
So,
thank you everyone for being here listening with us. If you loved it, please leave us a review or share this with your friends. And please remember that you are all extraordinary. You rock. Until next time, have a wonderful day. Bye.